Hi again, this is Woman International Master Marie Antoinette Santiago from Girl Chess Power and beyond. And let's learn to play chess with Coach Marie. I hope you have watched our first three videos because this is now our last one. For this video, we are going to learn about the special moves in chess. Are you excited? I am. From our previous video, we have learned each of the pieces' movement and abilities. So, for example, the queen, which is our most powerful piece, that can move through files, ranks, and diagonals, so all of the directions. And she is like a mix of a rook and a bishop. And of course, we cannot forget about our mighty knight, which can jump over pieces, and that's his special ability. Also, our king, which is considered as the weakest piece because he can only move one step at a time. Okay, so those are examples of how our pieces move. So, what are we going to talk about for today? So, for this one, we are going to talk about really special abilities. First up, promotion. Going back to our mighty soldier, which is the pawn, if you remember, I said on our last video that the pawn has a special ability as well. So even though he is the least valued, he's only got 1 point for the points, right? But he still has a special ability. As you can see on the photo, the pawn is looking at himself and he looks like a queen on his reflection. What does that mean? Well, promotion happens when the pawn reaches the end of the board. As you can see on our board right now, there is a green circle. Once our pawn on h2 reaches that part of the board, we can change it to another piece. You can choose from a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight. So it's your decision. But of course, usually a lot of people would choose the queen because it's the most powerful piece. This is why pawns are still important, even though they are the least valued ones. The pawn has the ability to transform himself to a more powerful piece. So don't look down on the pawns. Next. Next special move talks about king safety. What about king safety, coach? Well, as you know, the most important piece is the king. Why? Because he's the one that's targeted. He's the one that we have to checkmate. So, of course, for our own king, we have to keep him safe. But how do we put our king to safety? Think about it. If it's in real life, where is the king and queen living? And where are they safe? So, of course, we need to hide our king inside the castle. As you can see here, this one kind of looks like a rook, a part of the castle. In the chess game, we also have that move wherein we move the king inside the castle, and that's what we call castling. Castling is an important move in chess. It is used for the king's safety and it also brings out the rook into play. And this is the only move where you can move two pieces in just one turn. So normally we can only move one piece for each turn. But with castling, we can move our king and our rook simultaneously with just one turn. Like that. Okay, so let me do that again. From this one, the initial position, we can move our king 2 steps sideways and then the rook jumps over the king and castling happens. So you're really like putting the king inside the castle. Okay, so there are two kinds of castling: the short one, which is the left diagram, and the long one, which is the right diagram. So on the short one, we can see two squares between the king and the rook. And on the long one, we can see three squares between the king and the rook. Thus, its names, short and long. But don't be confused, because when you do a castling, let me go back. You can only move the king two steps sideways, either way. Even if you're castling on the long side, you can still go two steps sideways. You're not gonna go three steps. Okay? Two steps sideways, then jump with the rook. Move the king two steps, and the rook jumps over. Now, of course, there are rules for castling. So we have our checklist here. First of all, of course, you cannot castle if there's a piece or pieces between the king and the rook. So there has to be no piece at all. If you want to castle on the short side, make sure that you don't have any pieces left on that side of the board. Or if you want to castle on on the long side, same thing happens. You have to move your queen, your bishop, and your knight away. Second rule: the king or the rook that you're going to use shouldn't have moved at all. So, for example, you move your king to e2 and then you moved it back to e1. So, even if you're back in the original position, since your king has moved already, you cannot do castling. It has to be the first move of the king and the rook that you're going to use. That's the rule. Third one: the king shouldn't be under check. Under check means under attack. So if your king is attacked by our opponent's piece, you cannot do castling to hide. You have to save your king first, maybe cover the check, and then you can try to castle. And lastly, the king shouldn't be traveling through check. So, for example, imagine there is a rook over to f8, and that rook is guarding the f1 square. The king, the white king, cannot castle on the short side because he will be traveling through check. But of course, if you want to castle on the queen side, you can still do so. All right? These rules will be further expounded on our class, but I hope you will remember the rules of castling. Okay? So again, the first special move that we talked about was promotion, and then the next one is about castling. These two are very important special moves in our game. So I hope you remember them. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope to see you on our group classes. Bye!